6, 5.
Well, good evening and welcome to tonight's Cabinet meeting of Warrington Borough Council on the 11th of January. I'm the leader, Councillor Russ Bowden, and I'm joined by Cabinet colleagues tonight, Councillors Guthrie, Higgins, Jennings, Knowles, McLaughlin, Mitchell, Mundry, Patel and Smith. Also in attendance are senior officers of the Council, Stephen Broomhead, Matthew Cumberbatch, Linton Green, David Boyer and Paula Worthington. In terms of tonight's meeting, we've got the first part 1, which will be broadcast live using the Council's website. We've got items under part 2 which are confidential and they'll be not open to the public and the press, and that's the point at which our live broadcast will cease. I can confirm tonight that all members have got a copy of our agenda and the relevant reports, and they have a copy in front of them, and that all members have also received an update to our forward plan. In terms of the agenda, I'll start now with our part 1 formal agenda. Firstly, the code of conduct to remind members to declare any interest that they have in any item no later than when it's discussed on the agenda. Item 2, the minutes of the last meeting. Everybody should have seen those in their agenda pack. Are we happy to take those as a true record?
I'll do that, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
OK, thank you very much. Moving on to item 3 then, Cabinet decisions forward plan. You've seen the forward plan in the agenda pack and received the update in terms of changes and new items on the forward plan. I think that's all relatively straightforward. Are members happy with that?
Yes, thanks, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
OK, thank you. Moving forward then to item 4, our first report of the night, COVID-19 procurement arrangements. Councillor Mitchell, please.
Thank you, Chair. So when COVID hit, the government relaxed the rules for councils in obtaining goods and services, removing the need to tender. And this is because it was difficult for companies to fulfil the requirements, and also because urgent decisions were having to be made. This report is to consider at each Cabinet meeting what decisions have been made under these provisions for the purpose of transparency, really. This month's report has actions that have been taken in relation to social care services. I'm going to be talking about dynamic purchasing systems. So firstly, I'll talk about what they are. Public bodies, such as councils, have complicated rules to follow when buying goods and services, which, as I've said, often involve a tendering process. A dynamic purchasing system is designed to make that process more streamlined and user-friendly. The main benefits are that it's easier for businesses to use, meaning it's easier for small and medium-sized businesses to pitch, and they don't have to re-register each time they want to apply for a contract. The system stays open to new suppliers so that they can be added at any time. So turning to paragraph 5.2 on the report, residential and nursing care. A report went to April Cabinet to set out the intention to start one of these dynamic purchasing systems for residential and nursing care provision to start in October 2020. This has been deferred to April 2021 because of the ongoing challenges of COVID. The commissioning and contracting team is trying to make sure that it's ready to start in April, but in the circumstances they've requested a further 6 months, taking us to October 2021 to allow stability in the market. There's a similar situation and relates to a proposed dynamic purchasing certificate. There's also a similar situation set out paragraph 5.3, and this relates to mental health, learning disabilities, daycare services and supported living. And again, the request is for extra time to commence the new system up to October 2021. Paragraph 5.4 relates to procurement of adults home care services. The tender process for new contracting arrangements started in February 2020, but was paused in March because of COVID. The current arrangements are to use single purchase contracts for each person receiving a service. It hasn't been possible to restart the tender process and so an extension is requested to the current arrangements until July 2021, but there's potential for a further extension until December this year. Because of the delay since the original tender process was started, we might need to start all over again because of new practices and developments. And just to outline, paragraph 6.15 to 6.17 sets out the current arrangements. The recommendations, Chair, are at paragraph 12 of the report. I move that recommendation. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Mitchell. Tonight, rather than using, tonight we're using the chat function for members to indicate whether they've got any comments or questions. And I don't see anybody indicating they've got anything. I thank you for the report. Obviously, we've made this a regular item now in relation to the COVID-19 situation. And I think the discussion you've presented there is a practical and pragmatic way forward. And obviously the recommendations make perfect sense in terms of extending those provisions as of this meeting. Given that there's no other comments or questions, do I have a seconder for this report?
I'm happy to second, Chair.
Okay, thank you. That's been seconded by Councillor Patel then. In order to record the vote, then I'll come through members in turn. If you could indicate whether you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Bowden, for. Councillor Guthrie.
For.
Councillor Higgins.
For.
Councillor Jennings. For. Councillor Knowles.
For.
Councillor McLaughlin.
For.
Councillor Mitchell.
For.
Councillor Mundry.
For.
Councillor Patel.
For.
And Councillor Smith.
For.
Thank you, colleagues. That's unanimous. Moving on then to item 5. This is about the expansion of Grappan Hall Hayes Primary School. Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you. So in this report, I'm asking you to support an expansion to Grappan Hall Hayes Community Primary School. This expansion will take the school from 1 form entry to 2 form entry with an additional 210 primary school places. The council has a statutory duty to provide sufficient school places, and this happens through a careful planning process. Each year we undertake a formal process to assess the number of places likely to be needed in the future due to births, housing developments and other changes. This process has identified a need in the area, and Grappan Hall Hayes is best placed to address this need, both geographically and due to the available funding sources. The expansion will cost £3 million, and due to the location of Grappan Hall Hayes, this can be fully funded from Section 106 education contributions. And this is the money that developers have to contribute towards local pressures when constructing a development. Not all of the required Section 106 funding has yet been claimed from developers by the council, since these developments are at various stages of completion. But where a gap exists between the time we financially commit to the work and when we receive the Section 106 contribution, the DFE Basic Needs Grant will be used to cover the costs. The Basic Needs Grants provided by the DFE based on our annual schools capacity and place planning return. A consultation about the proposed expansion is ongoing, and consultation responses will influence the final project. The school are working with our highways department to look at the impact on local roads and how the expansion can best be accommodated. Construction work will be undertaken in a way which will minimise the impact on children currently at the school. The design of the school allows for much of the work to be completed in a way which will have little or no impact on daily school opening. Work on shared areas will be done during the school holidays. This increase in capacity at one of our successful primary schools is good news for families in the area and for those who will move to the area when the current developments are completed. Finally, I'd like to move the recommendation in section 9 of the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Smith. Councillor Knowles, please.
I just wanted to add, I think there are a considerable number of positives around this. I remember a long time ago being a school governor in another primary school in the area when the school was first built, and I'm aware that even from back then the Borough Council had the vision to design it in such a way that it could be expanded in a way that was sort of minimally disruptive to the ongoing work of the school. And that's something that Councillor Smith has just mentioned in his report. So I think that bit of foresight was really sensible piece of work. It's also a really successful school, and it's great to think of investing in an organisation that's already really successful to ensure that offer for local children of a really high quality primary education is something that's going to be doubled, so that twice as many children can benefit from that. And I also would really like to congratulate Councillor Smith and officers for the fact that this is being done really proactively, not waiting till every last bit of that section 106 money has been claimed, but anticipating the demands. Sometimes there are accusations that things like school expansions happen after the event. This is the opposite way around. The infrastructure and the right facilities for those families is going in at the appropriate moment when it's really going to be needed. So lots and lots of positives, no question in there, but lots of positive comments, and I think it's a testament to the clear thinking of the people in the team. Thanks.
No, thank you for those positive comments, and I totally agree with your observation there about the foresight and planning. And I think quite often residents don't understand how infrastructure is delivered along as a result of residential developments, and here it's quite clear that the expansion of the school has been entirely funded through Section 106 contributions, and that's exactly how it should be. That the impact on a community is borne financially by those who are seeking to gain through development. I don't think anybody else has indicated that they've got any comments or questions. Are you seconding this report, Councillor Knowles?
I'm very happy to second.
Okay, thank you. In which case we'll move to the vote. Councillor Bowden, 4. Councillor Guthrie,
4.
Councillor Higgins,
4.
Councillor Jennings,
4.
Councillor Knowles,
4.
Councillor McLaughlin, Councillor Mitchell,
4.
Councillor Mundry,
4.
Councillor Patel,
4.
and Councillor Smith.
4.
Excellent, thank you, colleagues. Come to our final piece of Part 1 business tonight, and that's regarding the Chester Road Cycleway project. Councillor Mundry, please.
Thank you, Russ. I think it's just pause for a little bit on this one, because it's another scheme where we're achieving in Warrington, particularly for our active travel project we're working on, and particularly giving people the choice about how they travel to each journey and encourage active lifestyles. It's another piece of our jigsaw we're putting together for our local transport plan 4, and it's just emphasising that we're delivering on what we said we would deliver. And I think it's pretty important to say we not only had the ambitions and ambitions to move our project forward, but we're actually delivering on what we said we were going to deliver. I think if we pause on that for a little bit, to say we don't just talk about things, we actually do them. I think Warrington's got a good reputation for doing that. And a part of that reputation is why over half the funding is coming from the Cheshire Warrington Local Growth Fund and less than half from us. It's a £1.2 million scheme with over half the funding coming externally. So I think again Warrington's reputation of being delivering on our ambitions is growing wide and bearing fruit for us. We are getting funding from outside. I think the scheme, it's going back to the scheme itself. I think it's an widening of the cycle path to and from the town centre down Chester Road. I think it's going to be a 3 metre wide path of tarmac path there, and it's going to be joint use. So it's joint use for cyclists and pedestrians. And again, I'll pause on this bit. With our cycle maps we've put out to everyone in Warrington, which costs approximately 20 pence per map, which was really good value for money. And it's also telling people where they can cycle, but also information on there is about safe cycling. Because when you're actually sharing the footpath or the cycle path, it's the pedestrians who will be vulnerable to cyclists, and it's the information on the maps actually tells people, cyclists particularly, to take care when they're cycling and bear in mind that they are the danger on that element, and they should take due care and attention and work towards a code of conduct of how how to use these pathways we're putting in there, and bear in mind that they can cause damage to pedestrians, and just take a thought to say we're sharing this with other users, and just be courteous. And that's the sort of important thing to look at there. We'll also be improved Toucan crossing at Wilson Patton Street, which will benefit cyclists and pedestrians to enter town centre. This scheme will complement the work we're doing in town centre itself, because we are looking at making that more pedestrian and cycle friendly as well. And the Chester Road scheme will actually link in to our town centre scheme, which we're working on as well. So I think we've put some temporary measures in there, and we're working on the town centre as well to see how we can make that more pedestrian cycle friendly without damaging any businesses what's operating in there. I think the scheme's been welcomed by the local ward councillors, and again will be another piece of us delivering on what we said we'd deliver in our local plan 4. I'm open to questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mundry. Are you going to formally move that recommendation before
Yes,
I take
I move the recommendation. Obviously, it's a part of the part 2 as well coming forward, but I'll just about to see if I'm on mute then. I'll formally move the recommendations as are in the papers and take any questions.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Mundry. Okay, Councillor McLaughlin first, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a very brief comment from me. I'm really pleased to see this scheme coming forward, especially as it affects my ward, but it fits into a wider accessibility plan. But it's great news for anybody trying to use more active means of travel and using that route. And it's also great for people with disabilities, allowing an extra amount of accessibility for those people who need it. So overall, a very good scheme, and I'm looking forward to seeing that in reality, becoming a reality.
Thank you for that positive support. Councillor Higgins, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to put on record my support to this report as Chair of the delivery of the Central 6 Master Plan. Now, as members will remember from last year when I delivered that Master Plan, this was one of the central pillar commitments about improving accessibility, having cycleways, enabling people to get in and out of the town centres safely, and also improving their health. So this, again, we're delivering on our commitments for the master plan, and we're delivering earlier than scheduled. So I applaud everyone who's put their work into this report. Thank you, Councillor Mundry, and to everyone who's made this happen and realise quicker and sooner than anticipated. But I think more importantly, it's not about just putting this on record to members, but more importantly to our residents, that we're delivering on our commitments. Thank you.
Thank you for those positive comments there, Councillor Higgins. I don't think we've got any comments from other members. I fully support the comments that have been made by Councillor McLaughlin and Higgins, and I think you know, it is a very strong demonstration of our commitment towards improving people's health and well-being, promoting active lifestyles, but also in providing the infrastructure that gives people genuine choices about getting out of the car, about using public transport, but most importantly about being able to walk and to cycle safely around our town. I think this is you know, a really excellent project which demonstrates that commitment. If you actually go along Chester Road, as I do occasionally on my bicycle, we've got a cycle lane heading into town, but we don't have one coming out. You know, this shared use pedestrian cycleway will make a massive improvement. You know, it is a popular route and it will give people that genuine choice. So I wholeheartedly support it. And obviously officers are to be congratulated in terms of the funding, as Councillor Mundry said. A significant part of the funding coming through the growth fund, and yet another demonstration for our partners, really, that they've got the confidence in us to deliver these kind of schemes. So well done to everybody. Do I have a seconder for this report?
Yes, I'm happy to second, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor McLaughlin. In which case we'll move to the vote. Councillor Bowden, 4. Councillor Guthrie.
4.
Councillor Higgins.
4.
Councillor Jennings. 4. Councillor Knowles.
4.
Councillor McLaughlin. Has Councillor McLaughlin frozen?
Looks like it.
Looks like it. Okay, Councillor Mitchell.
4.
Councillor Mundry,
4.
Councillor Patel
4.
and Councillor Smith.
4.
Okay, I'll take that as unanimous, given that Councillor McLaughlin seconded the report. Okay, that brings us to the end of our part 1 business. Can I move part 2, please?
Agreed, Chair.
Okay, is that okay with members? Thank you, in which case we'll move now into part 2 and our live broadcast will now finish. Thank you and good evening.